Yeah, it's rare that I have a conversation with people who are also interested in the questions of what is meaning, what is love, and how do we access it? How do we live that in our lives and have people I can explore that with? Is yeah, I mean, I think what's most motivating to me maybe is transcendence, like always getting some bigger perspective, always getting that moment where there's almost that scale shift between daily life and the bigger questions. And both of you help me access that a larger perspective than the day-to-day minutia that is also part of life too.
Right. And of course, having that larger perspective is non-trivial, right? I mean, that's the art and the science of living, and of course, you can see this clearly. The common mistakes people make, right? So the conservative tends to deny the need to shift to larger perspective, saying, what do you mean? It's all in the Bible already, So, but even that, they didn't realize, there are as many interpretations of the Bible as there are people. So, but
Yeah, depending on your perspective.
they don't even realize that. So, but that's kind of mentality, right? On the other hand, liberal is saying, well, anything goes. What that actually turns into is narcissism, right? So saying, my perspective is the only perspective that actually is the best. So there's no humility there. So that's why when you see those cultural wars between the two sides, that's really what's going on. It's really dysfunctional on both sides. But how do you deal with that, right? How do you deal with that? So I think that's the essential. When we shift perspectives, we have to shift in a way. I think this is great contribution by Ken Wilber. You have to transcend and include. So you can't miss any part, right? So if you have a larger perspective but doesn't include what already here and people are currently still holding, then you more than likely you are just onto some fantasy, So,
And you have no empathy.
so it's like the scientific method, right? If you think you have a good theory, you've got to prove it. And the way you prove it is that you are able to explain what's going on. Okay? So what's going on may not be the entire thing. You may have a larger perspective, but the minimum requirement to validate your larger perspective is you can explain a substantial part of what's going on, and you have some utility of helping people to get a better handle on what's going on, or have some predictability power, right? So you can predict things. That's the scientific method. So if you cannot include, simply means that you cannot verify it scientifically, and then your theory is just as good as anyone else's theory. So that's the scientific method. Yeah. On the other hand, if you don't transcend at all, then you get stuck to whatever you already have, right? So I think that's the challenge. How do you help people to have a better understanding of what's going on in their lives and what's the pathway to transcendence, right? So and both are absolutely necessary. Otherwise, you either get lost in fantasizing, or you get stuck to the little me right here. So that's why we're doing this, right? So that's why we like to spend time here, because during this time we have the freedom and really support, right? Security, love, if you will, absolute trust, right? So that to explore, say, well, is this, larger than what it appears? What's behind it? And that, to me, that's the most beautiful feeling that you can have in life. And yes, that's meaningful.